Do you remember Kodak? The name synonymous with capturing memories. For over a century, a little yellow box held the promise of forever. From the moment George Eastman first commercialized roll film in the 1880s, Kodak didn't just sell film, they sold nostalgia, connection, and the very fabric of our visual history. They were an empire, a titan of industry with a market cap that once soared into the billions. But what if I told you that the company that perfected the chemistry of photography was the first to invent its digital replacement? Kodak's business model was a marvel of strategic genius, a system known as razor and blades. The camera, the razor, was sold cheaply, sometimes at a loss. But the film, the paper, the chemicals, the blades, that was where the fortune was made. It was a closed-loop recurring revenue stream guaranteeing a constant flow of cash into their Rochester headquarters. At its peak in 1976, Kodak owned 90% of film sales and 85% of camera sales in the US. This was a monopoly built on a perfect chemical process. The year was 1975. Deep within Kodak's hallowed labs, a brilliant 25-year-old engineer named Steven Sasson built the world's first self-contained digital camera. It was clunky, it used a cassette tape, and it took 23 seconds to capture a single 0.01 megapixel black and white photo. Sasson presented it to his bosses. Their response, "That's cute, but don't tell anyone about it." Kodak knew. They saw the writing on the wall. Sasson's invention wasn't just a quirky experiment, it was a prophecy. Their own internal reports, commissioned in the early 1980s, predicted that digital imaging would eventually overtake film. They estimated a decade, perhaps more, of transition time. But the reaction was not one of excitement, but of fear. A corporate anxiety attack driven by profit. This is the core tragedy. Kodak was trapped by the innovator's dilemma. The digital camera, while potentially the future, was inferior to film in terms of quality and cost at the time. To invest heavily in it would mean cannibalizing their incredibly lucrative film division, a division generating up to 80% of their profit. No rational executive, with quarterly earnings reports looming, wants to intentionally destroy their primary source of income. The biggest barrier to change is often past success. Imagine the boardroom debates. The film executives, riding a wave of massive profitability, argued that digital was a fad, that the emotional connection to a printed photograph would never die. They had a powerful argument rooted in reality and financial success. Every dollar invested in the future of digital was seen as a dollar directly cannibalized from the present. This internal conflict led to a fatal half measure. Kodak did release digital cameras, but they were deliberately held back. They designed them to be easy share, making it easy to print photos, thus protecting the printing and chemical revenue stream. They entered the digital war with a safety net, while their future rivals, with nothing to lose, ran straight into the digital unknown. Kodak's decline wasn't one sudden event. It was a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 paper cuts across 3 key phases. Phase 1. Denial and licensing. Kodak focused on patenting the digital technology, but refused to manufacture or market it aggressively. They essentially locked their future in a vault, choosing to license key digital components to competitors like Sony and Canon, accidentally equipping their future assassins with the best weapons. This generated short-term licensing revenue, but ceded long-term market control. Phase 2. The half-hearted pivot. As film sales peaked and then began their steady decline, Kodak launched their first serious digital products. But their strategy was flawed. They prioritized professional markets, high-end digital cameras for photojournalists, which were a tiny fraction of the consumer market. When they finally launched consumer cameras, they handicapped them, ensuring the output quality was never too good, so customers would still need Kodak photo kiosks and printing services. They tried to shoehorn the new technology into the old business model. Phase 3. The panic and acquisition spree. By the early 2000s, the writing was on the wall. Kodak panicked, going on an expensive acquisition spree, buying up companies specializing in photo sharing, online galleries, and photo manipulation software. They were trying to buy the digital expertise they refused to build, but these acquisitions were fragmented, poorly integrated, and far too late to compete with streamlined services like Flickr and eventually social media. They mistook buying talent for building vision. This is the analytical heart of the story. Kodak's failure is a textbook case study in 3 lethal business concepts. First, strategic inertia. The company was so perfectly optimized for film production, the chemical factories, the global distribution network, the thousands of specialized employees, that the sheer size of their existing machinery made it impossible to turn the ship. Their incredible success in one century became their crippling anchor in the next. The system fought back against change because the system was designed for the status quo. Second, the sunk cost fallacy. Kodak had invested billions of dollars over decades in their film infrastructure. Emotionally and psychologically, abandoning those factories, those chemical patents, and that brand recognition was equivalent to admitting every penny they ever spent on film was a mistake. They kept pouring money into the old model, hoping it would somehow last, rather than making the brutal but necessary decision to cut the cord and invest fully in digital. They were prioritizing avoiding pain over achieving profit. Third, the misunderstanding of disruptive innovation. They kept judging digital based on the metrics of the film world: resolution, archival quality, print longevity. But digital didn't succeed by being a better film camera. It succeeded by offering a radically different experience: instantaneity, zero marginal cost per photo, and shareability. Competitors like Sony and later, the smartphone companies, capitalized on this new value proposition, creating a market Kodak simply refused to acknowledge until it was too late. To truly understand Kodak's failure, we must look at its fiercest rival, Fujifilm. Fujifilm was in the exact same business, facing the exact same existential threat, but their response was diametrically opposed. While Kodak doubled down on film, hoping the storm would pass, Fujifilm diversified aggressively. They leveraged their deep expertise in chemicals, the same chemistry used to stabilize film emulsions, and pivoted into entirely new unrelated markets: cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and advanced display materials. They weren't afraid to let the film business shrink. They had already built new revenue streams to replace it. Meanwhile, Kodak faced a deeper, more psychological problem: brand identity crisis. Kodak meant film. When digital arrived, the brand association became a liability. Consumers associated the iconic yellow box with the expensive, inconvenient process of film developing. Competitors like Canon and Sony, meanwhile, represented newness, technology, and instantaneous results. Kodak could not shed its own skin fast enough. The true disruptive force wasn't Canon or Nikon, it was the smartphone. The ability to take, view, and instantly share photos from the same device completely obliterated Kodak's entire business model: the camera, the film, and the printing. Within a few short years, the market for digital point-and-shoots evaporated. Kodak, a 130-year-old titan, hemorrhaging cash and unable to pivot, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2012. The cost of that one internal mistake, that fear of self-cannibalization, a stunning, irreversible $25 billion in lost market value, and the end of an American icon. Kodak's story isn't just a corporate failure, it's a terrifying lesson for all of us. It is proof that being first to invent means nothing if you are second to market, or worse, afraid to enter the market at all. The world is moving faster than ever. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. What is the disruptive innovation looming over your industry, your job, or your life? The greatest competitive advantage is not innovation. It is agility. It is the willingness to look at your most profitable endeavor and ask, how can I destroy this before someone else does? Don't let strategic inertia turn your past success into a future anchor. Be brave enough to build your own replacement. If this deep dive resonated with you, if it made you think about your own sunk costs or your strategic inertia, then smash that like button and subscribe to The Money Myth. We exist to uncover the hidden financial forces that shape our world. We release a new analytical case study every week. What other famous business failure should we investigate next? Nokia, Blockbuster, or maybe Toys R Us? Let us know in the comments below.